Kida must go is the latest crisis rocking the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Yesterday in Abuja, hundreds of placard-carrying protesters who claim to be basketball players and wearing shirts with the inscription, Kida must go, protested against the re-election of Musa Amadu Kida as president of the Nigeria Basketball Federation. The protesters marched from Area 10, Old Parade, Garki, and to the Unity Fountain, Maitama, demanding that Kida must be prevented from imposing himself on the basketballers and other stakeholders as the association's president. The outgoing board had been under scathing criticisms from D Tigers players who won the 2021 Women's Afrobasket in Cameroon. The players, in a video which went viral, demanded that they be paid their financial entitlements from their participation in the 2017 Afrobasket, as well as presidential recognition. They also threatened to boycott the 2022 FIBA Women's World Cup in Australia if their demands were not met. In a swift reaction,
we want to say thank you to the Nigerian Embassy in Cameroon for celebrating us. We appreciate you more than you know. Other than that, we do not feel appreciated or celebrated after achieving this historical feat. In 2017, we won the Afrobasket Championship, and 3 days later, we were presented to the Father of Nations, Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, and his entire cabinet by the former ministry, Honorable Solomon Dalung, as customary with handshake. We have defended our championship and brought back the cup in 2019 and 2021, which is historical, but still, no invitation has been extended to the team to visit Aso Rock or a presidential handshake. Why?
President of NBBF, Musa Kida, said that the Federation isn't owing any players, officials, or vendors. This is far from the truth. The last time we checked, our allowances, stipends, bonuses, training grants, and donations made by banks for players, officials, and volunteers still have not been paid.
We are owed $73,118 from the NBBF, $24,000 from the Ministry for the Tokyo Grant, and $100,000 from donations from 3 banks in Nigeria.
Ever since our general manager and team manager resigned, we feel like we're being marginalized. Our senior leadership, like the former president, never really shows up for camps or competitions to boost our morale. And when we have significant concerns and issues that needs to be addressed, when he does show up, we get vague answers, as if our concerns aren't important to him. But when we win, they magically show up for photo ops and celebrations to use for political gain.
In swift reaction, the Minister of Sports in Nigeria, Sunday Dare, who was supposed to be on this show this morning, released a video where he stated that the ministry is doing everything to ensure the right thing is done. He, however, absolved himself of the crisis by saying that the issue started way back in 2017 before he became the Minister of Sports.
Every athlete that wears the Nigerian colors is a commitment, is a sacrifice. And as Minister, I've made every effort to make sure that they're fully supported. But I also work within a system where allocation of resources is based on certain critical factors. What we have done is to make sure that we push the files, we do the documentation, and the process is ongoing. I share the pains. This is allowances from 2017 when I was not even a minister. But is it something that government has, on an incremental basis, tried to address? I know that part of this money have been paid. As resources become available to government, they're able to meet most of the demands that come to government from different MDAs. In this case, I understand the pain, but I want to put it on record that the ministry has never slept at the switch.
Joining us now is Solomon Dalung, a former Minister of Sports in Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dalung. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, my mentor.
Thank you. I'm sure you listened to that tape by Sunday Dare, your successor in office. And his key point is that whatever the ladies are complaining about was not an incident that occurred under his watch. But nonetheless, he is addressing those issues. He feels their pains, and that the allowances will be paid very soon. So, what exactly happened in 2017? Because you were in that office 2017 to 2019, and apparently you were the minister who did not address the concerns of these athletes. Are you guilty as charged?
Well, let me begin by apologizing sincerely to the girls. They do not deserve what they got from us as leaders. Because, I mean, these are champions that we should be celebrating, but not plunging them into this disgraceful state of affairs where they have to fall back on other means of reaching out to us. What happened in 2017? Yeah, 2017 there were no issues because when they won, I was given 3 days notice. And I immediately reached out to the presidency and got them to meet with the Federal Executive Council on a Wednesday. The president appreciated them. The handshake was 1 million naira per each of the players and 500,000 for the coaching crew. Immediately after the Federal Executive Council meeting, they provided their account details to the ministry in less than 24 hours. And these monies were disbursed to them. So no issues as to 2017. These issues we are talking about are as a result of their participation in the World Cup in Tenerife, Spain in 2018. We had budgetary issues with their qualification because there was the provision made in the budget went to the National Assembly and came back far, far below what we expected. So we had to now fall back on an intervention, which I approached the president, and the president said, well, put up your memo for me to consider. The Federation now presented a memo of about 1.5 billion covering their preparation and participation in the 2018 World Cup. This memo was not even brought to the ministry on time. So we were caught up with going to Spain. Then the president of the Federation said, well, we can be able to raise funds to sustain the competition, but when we return and we are now paid, we will address some of these issues. We went, the girl did the country proud, becoming the first African country in 100 years in basketball to qualify to quarterfinals, defeating great basketball nations like Italy, Turkey, and Argentina. So when we came back, I approached the president again, and the president graciously approved 1 billion naira covering the cost of preparation and participation for the World Cup. I kept pursuing it, and the funds were not released until when I left office. The funds were released in August 2019. 1 billion naira approved by the president was released in 2019. 2019, I have not been the minister. So passing the buck of the blame to me, yes, it all started under my watch, but I did my own part of the bargain. What the girls are asking for now is that since 2019, they are aware. When these monies were released, they are aware. When the monies were released in 2019, they have not been paid from August 2019 till date. So passing it back to me, I think it's not the best way. The best way is for the ministry to come out clean, apologize, and explain why the money, the AIE that was raised in the name of the ministry suddenly found its way into an escrow account in the central bank. Because the AIE was issued in the name of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. But I know as a fact that the monies were released to the ministry and the Nigerian Basketball Federation was paid. Because when the girls started complaining in 2020, they got back to me that they have not been paid their money. And I called the president of Nigerian Basketball Federation and said, what is happening to these guys' money? And they said, well, their money has been released, we're going to pay them. So I think that is something we are trying to hide. But look at the issues raised by the girls. The issues are many. The issues are many. So trying to sweep the issue under the carpet will not help us. Let me explain what they meant by our stipends, our training grants, our allowances, our bonuses. All these things, these girls are entitled to. They have not been paid their camping allowances. They have not been paid their participation bonuses. They have allowances. They have not been paid their bonuses. The training grants they are referring to, they have also not been paid. And let us not mix up these issues. There is this provision by the International Federation. When a team qualified for an international competition, they become the team of the president of Nigeria. That's why they wear green, white, green. Everything is provided for by the government. The International Federation, too, also provide money for the training grant to augment the training grant of the participating players. This comes from the International Federation. That is part of what they are referring to. And we're also saying that this training grant that came from the International Federation had also migrated into the escrow account. Certainly not. What is this escrow account that we are telling Nigerians? I created the escrow account in 2019 after the democratization of the National Federation because I wanted to insulate the National Federations from undue interference from the bureaucracy. And so I created this in the central bank so that all contributions coming from outside, not from the government, coming from outside, from private sector sponsors, International Federation will go into this account. And we can be able to track this account and give account to whosoever would have contributed. But since I left office, they have never activated this account. They have been dormant. So if monies certainly migrated into dormant account, I will challenge anybody that is making this allegation to help us with the statement of account of the escrow account in the central bank. So blaming me, yes, I take full responsibility for not being able to get their monies before I left office. I tried my best. And I am apologizing for if my inability had contributed to these pains. I apologize sincerely.
Right, so the onus is on the minister, not the minister who got the approval from the president, but on the minister who was there when that approval actually was paid. Can you take us through some of the red tape? Why is it that it took so long from when President Muhammadu Buhari made the approval to when it was actually paid, at which point you were no longer Minister for Sports?
There were funding issues with the Federal Ministry of Finance. You know, we had a lot of crises with the National Assembly. So the budget was passed about 6 months into the budget year. And so pursuing the ministry to get them release these funds had some difficulties because they said there were no funds available as at then. But the last time I met the minister, he gave an assurance that definitely they were going to prioritize the payment, which they did before I left. So the question is, where is that 1 billion naira approved by the president, which was paid to the ministry in August 2019? But talking of 2019, not even 2020.
Wow, it's getting more and more expository here concerning the monies that have been paid. But we want to find out from you because the news broke out in July 2021 15th of July 2021 to be very precise, that banks had put in some money together under the Adopt an Athlete scheme, and monies were raised. 82 million naira was actually raised for the male and female basketball teams. And these monies were not paid before the Olympics because it was to serve as training grants in preparation for the Olympics. These monies were not paid before the Olympics, during the Olympics, after the Olympics, before the Afrobasket in Cameroon, during the Afrobasket, and after the Afrobasket. The Afrobasket is well over 2 weeks right now, and we are in October. What would have happened that the ministry has yet, or is yet to pay these monies to these athletes as we speak? Because they are claiming that these monies are still enshrined in the CBN.
You know, I had my baptism as a minister 6 months when I was appointed, and it was in Rio. And I learned my lessons greatly, not to delegate my responsibilities to anybody or to allow anybody exercise any authority which is meant to be accounted for by me as the minister. And that helped greatly. You see, this is how these things operate. Before the Olympics, this Adopt an Athlete thing was done by the minister. The concept originated from Jide Fashokun.
The late Jide Fashokun.
The late Jide Fashokun, who launched this Adopt an Athlete. And I contributed my 1 month salary at the launching, 840,000. Mary Onyale and late Jide raised money, including getting money from Afe Babalola, who contributed 10 million, and then the Ondo state government. So this wasn't a new initiative. It was an ongoing initiative of the late Jide Fashokun. Jide Fashokun had even funded some athletes from this money before he died. So when the minister came in, it became a new initiative. And to be fair, they were not even fair to Jide Fashokun because his name was even not mentioned anywhere. Now, these monies were meant to be even released by the program to athletes to help them in training before Olympics, because the concept was to help us improve on our podium performance in Tokyo in 2020. So this 84 million that was raised was supposed to be distributed to athletes through a balloting system. Whosoever now picked the ballot will be considered for funding. It wasn't done before Olympics. After Olympics, it even wasn't done. The girls went for the Afrobasket, they were not even paid. I think the ministry needs to give a clear explanation to face this issue headlong and said, well, this was what happened, because this is the marketing.
But they said that it was accounts not being given to the ministry, not given to the federation was the hiccup to this process not being completed.
The Nigerian Football Federation, we have the accounts of the national players, the account details in the ministry. We have the account details of the Tiger and the Tigress, all in the documents of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport. You don't need to ask them, because we have been paying them through these processes in the past. So the ministry cannot ask them again, except if they have changed their bank details, or maybe because of COVID, the banking regulations would have been altered. I will not be in a position to. But the truth is that these national players, their details are well documented with the ministry. I have a comprehensive handing over note. And not to sound Vincent to be immodest, I left a very comprehensive handing over note to the last thing I did before I left the office. Nothing is left uncovered, so that my successor in office will not go through what I went through. I was left to grope in the dark to find my way. So I didn't want my successor to suffer the same thing. So there is nothing like these players. Their details are not with the ministry. Their details is in the ministry, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development. The minister should ask his directors, ask the director of FIT, and ask the account department, the director of accounts, to bring the accounts of these guys.
Okay. I mean, part of the story out there is that you and your successor are not on good terms. You recall that before now, there was some kind of public spat between the two of you over, is it the Athletics Federation?
Yes, Athletics Federation was.
Other politics
Yes.
over kids. And I saw some messages, accusing you of always criticizing your successor because you were not happy that you were removed from office. But beyond that personal matter, what do you think Nigeria needs to do to make sure that we're not faced with this kind of embarrassment again, which is not good for the country's image? It's not just about basketball. It happens in virtually all the federations, even with the National Sports Festival. The Edo State government is saying that the federal government is still owing them up to now money promised. The Ministry of Youth and Sports is blaming the Ministry of Finance and certain, processes that need to be followed before money can come out. From your experience, where do you think the issues are? Because we can't keep running government like this.
Well, let me begin by saying that the issue of not having a good relationship with him is just being economical with the truth. I was the only minister who congratulated my successor, congratulated him, and also received him in my house and gave him advice as to what he should do. So when there are issues, he should look at the issues. Now, anybody who knows me very well knows that the president himself has not escaped my criticism. And I'm very close with him. I'm very, very close to the president. So nobody can tell me that I'm criticizing the president because I'm not appointed. No, I am such a person that criticizes issues. You can be my very good friend. We can be quarreling with you. But if somebody perpetuates injustice against you and think you are my enemy, so I will stand with you. No, I'm going to stand with you based on that issue. But that does not mean that we will not come back to where we are disagreeing. So the minister should concentrate and do his job. He is accountable for everything, not to be blaming anybody. I never blame anybody for all that I went through. I took full responsibility where I'm supposed to. And I apologize to Nigerians where I'm supposed to apologize. So that aside, you see, the problem of these funds, releases, budget in sports. Sports is a very lucrative ministry.
Very lucrative ministry?
Very, very lucrative ministry.
Okay, I've noted that. Please help me note.
Okay.
It's a very lucrative ministry with divergent interests. You see, if we manage our sports very well, sports will be next to NNPC. That's a lot of money in sports. It is this money in sports that is responsible for the crisis you are finding there. Any country that has so much of natural resources, conflict is always there. DRC is a common example. That's money there. The problem is there is what we call multiple budgeting in sports. Nigerians don't know this. The national federations will always approach government for funding. They will always approach the private sector for support. They will always receive money from the international federations. But as a minister, if you there ask for accountability, the international federation will be invited, and then you will be accused of interfering. So asking for account in sports is more or less like a crime. People should receive money from whosoever, they should spend them, don't ask a question. One of the so many battles I run with the federation is based on asking of this question. I mean, the World Cup in 2018, federal government gave me 2.3 billion for the football participation in the World Cup. I released 1.6 billion to the Football Federation. We crashed at the group stage. And the monies released was meant to take them to quarterfinals. I asked for account. The next thing is my mode of dressing became the issue, and I was criminalized. And then at a point in time, they were saying, oh, that question is interference, government interference. And FIFA was now being invited to come after me. So this is the problem. And government is safe, is getting aware of all these things. Government is aware that if it gives 1 billion, like it gave in basketball, there is also money coming from FIBA. There is money coming from the private sector. So all these monies put together goes to where? And at the end of the day, you still have the ultimate victims of this maladministration, which are the players or athletes, still complaining of not being paid. So if government has been releasing this type of huge sum of money and the players are not taken care of, the athletes are not taken care of, where are these monies going to? That is why I tell you that there is a lot of money in sports. Like the Basketball Federation, can they come out and tell us how much FIBA released for the World Cup, which these girls participated in Spain? Because they got to quarterfinals, and their participation fee depends on the stage, at the stage in which they crash out. So getting to quarterfinals is next to semifinals, and whatever they are entitled to is match. How much was given? They have not told us. How much did the Continental Federation give NBBF for their participation in the 3 Afro Basket Championships where they emerged champions? This has not been accounted for. So let us not only try to look at government. Government has its own bureaucracy. The way out is that we must legislate sport. Today, sports has no law. There's no law governing sports in Nigeria. The only legislation is Decree 101, which is a military decree. And that military decree only recognizes a unitary form of sports administration. There is no legislation. And because there's no legislation, sport is governed by the whims and caprices of sports administrators. Would the federation officials taking immunity under the International Federation, you can't hold them to account. The next thing you will hear is that they will go and smuggle one document from any of these things and then take it to the State House and intimidate government and say, look, FIBA is coming or FIFA is coming. And Nigerian government is such a government that doesn't stand out to ask questions. Once they bring that document, the minister will be left alone. Nobody will ask questions. One of the documents that was used even to threaten Nigeria under my watch was a document forged here in Lagos. But government acted on it and everybody went against me. Oh, Solomon Dalung is wearing khaki and beret. He doesn't know what. So these are the issues.
There's this other costume that you wear too.
Yes, that's a very memorable costume. I remember that one. Well, this has been a most illuminating conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning.